Hi there, welcome to this second video. I remain Gidud Silva, the lead coordinator Natural and Sustainable Generations Uganda. Now we are still talking about our target number 2, which is increase the use of indigenous traditional local knowledge and public participation in the development of sustainable strategies aimed at nature conservation. As our target, and we said in our second video we are going to talk more about indigenous knowledge, and I have got some brief information about indigenous knowledge here. Now, what literature says about indigenous knowledge. Now, indigenous knowledge or traditional knowledge, TK or IK or LK, local knowledge, generally refers to knowledge systems embedded in the cultural traditions of regional, indigenous, or local communities. Now, this is the definition. What literature now says. They say indigenous knowledge or local knowledge generally refers to knowledge systems embedded in the cultural traditions of regional, indigenous, or local communities. And according to the World Intellectual Property Organization (WIPO) and the United Nations, traditional knowledge and traditional cultural expressions (TCE) are both types of indigenous or traditional knowledge. Now, traditional knowledge includes types of knowledge about traditional technologies of subsistence tools and techniques for hunting or agriculture, midwifery, ethnobotany, ecological knowledge, traditional medicines, celestial navigation, craft skills, ethnoastronomy, climate, etc. These kinds of knowledge, crucial for subsistence and survival, are generally based on accumulation of empirical observations and on interaction with the environment. Now, I earlier on said in our first video, traditional knowledge basically relates to observations and interaction with the community. The longer you stay in a community, the more you come to know more about that community and how things are done. Land is not the same everywhere. What is done in the United States may not necessarily be what is done in any other country in Africa, in Uganda, in South Africa, in Guinea, in Ghana, in Nigeria, in Tunisia, or where. Land is not the same everywhere. What is done in the UK, it is not how land is used in the UK. It may not be how land is used here. So traditional systems, traditional knowledge varies from one tribe to another, one nation to another, one continent to another. So, but it bases more on interaction with the environment and the observations. So, in many cases, traditional knowledge has been passed from generation to generation, from person to person, as an oral tradition. Some forms of traditional knowledge find expression in culture, stories, legends, folklore, rituals, songs and laws, languages, songlines, dances, games, mythology, designs, visual, architecture, falling under the category of traditional cultural expressions. Now, some of these are passed down as now this is the forms how they are passed down. They are expressed in form of cultures, stories, legends, folklore, rituals, songs, laws, languages, songlines, dances, games, mythology, designs, visual, architecture, falling under the category of traditional culture. Now, in way back at campus, we had the traditional dances, a cultural gala. Cultural gala, all those performances were reflecting our cultures. Once it's a cultural gala was performances for each tribe in the Uganda, and we had the Baganda and Kovazambogo, we had the Bamansaba, we had the Basogansete, we had the Banyankole, we had the Banyarwanda Students Association, the Teso Students Association. All those associations, they would come and perform, but what they are performing is in reflection to their culture. They come and express their culture and tradition through performances, cultural performances at universities, and it was the youths involved in this. And guess what? It was really fun. Now, international recognition, acceptance, and mandate. Now you can read this article. Article 27 3B of the Agreement on Trade related Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights, TRIPS. Article 27 3B of the Agreement on Trade related Aspects of Intellectual Property Rights, TRIPS, which sets out certain conditions under which certain biological materials or intellectual innovations may be excluded from patenting, etc. You can read that article and you will come to know more about the traditional knowledge. Now, the other reference I can give is the Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD. The Convention on Biological Diversity, CBD, of the 1992. Now, this convention was signed at the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, UNCED. The CBD, or the Convention on Biological Diversity, was signed at the United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, UNCED, in the year 1993, and was the first international environmental convention to develop measures for the use and protection of traditional knowledge related to the conservation and sustainable use of biodiversity. And by 2006, 188 countries had ratified the convention and agreed to be bound by its provisions, the largest number of nations to accede to any existing treaty. The United States is one of the few countries that signed but did not ratify the Convention on Biological Diversity. Now you can read more about the Convention on Biological Diversity of 1992. Now there are some terms we have heard there: patenting, what. Now, patenting refers to the act of making or using, selling, placing on sale, or importing into a territory with issued patent, a claimed invention of that issued patent. A patent is an exclusive right granted for an invention. The purpose of patenting is to prevent or stop others from commercially exploiting the patented invention. Thus, patenting protection means that the invention cannot be commercially made, used, distributed, imported, or sold by others without the patent owner's consent. Now, you cannot come here and take away our mountain gorillas in the impenetrable without our country's consent. You cannot come here and say, we are taking this one for research. Maybe another country like the US or Russia, or where they say, we are taking this animal for further research. So, without Uganda's consent, you cannot take them. That is patenting. they have an exclusive right to that stuff, to that it is their own, and therefore they must give you permission to access it or use it. Without their consent, you cannot access it or use it. That's patenting. Then there is another one here. We heard about ethnobotany. Ethnobotany is the study of regions, plants, and their practical uses through the traditional knowledge of the local culture and the people. Now, an ethnobotanist is a person who strives to document the local customs involved in the practical uses of local flora for many aspects of life, such as plants as medicines, foods, intoxicants, and clothing. That's an ethnobotanist. In our next video, we are going to talk more about the key terms and the traditional knowledge. I wish you best as you watch.